What's up, guys? We are back with another Super 7 Ultimates Silverhawks Wave 2 review, taking a look at the other bad guy in this wave. We're taking a look at WINDHAMMER, and this guy comes in a slightly oversized box, so that same familiar Ultimate style packaging, and of course for the Silverhawks line it gets the full-on foil treatment. So he comes in a slightly larger box, but you've got the red slipcover just like Monstar has. You've got the Monstar logo on the front, you've got the Silverhawks logo stamped on the back. Pop that slipcover off and you've got this big old dude there in the window with all of his accessories. There is a lot of stuff in this package. Silverhawks logo down there on the bottom, and then the back of the box gives us that almost like, you know, hologram-y style cartoon shot of WINDHAMMER along with a bio for our Stormmaster. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Ultimates WINDHAMMER. So we've got a goon to go along with Monstar in this particular wave, and I really like this guy's design, as dumb as it is. He's like a space troll wearing a burlap sack, and he has a tuning fork as a weapon. It's stupid and ridiculous, but I've been excited to get this guy, and I think for the most part, we've got a winner here. Like, he's a really, really solid figure, and there's some kind of odd but cool stuff going on with this guy. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. Let's get the big caveat out of the way, because he has just the most flowing, long, golden locks coming off of that head. So you already know what is and isn't going to work on this guy. The head is really locked down. He does come with an extra head sculpt that has better range, but he's still got a mile of hair, no matter which head you're using. So you've got some bobble, basically, but that's nothing. And then you've got a little twist side to side. So not the greatest range on this guy. You've got arms that go out at the shoulder. They do rotate. You do have soft goods, so you got to watch that when you're moving them. You've got single jointed, about 90 degrees, rotating elbows. Really, really good wrist range there, as well as your swivel. Now, he is, of course, wearing clothing, so that does prohibit us from being able to see what's inside. He has kind of an odd build, because this belt that he has actually pegs into his back. There is a hole in the waist that allows this thing to just like cinch shut on him, which does hinder him a little bit in some ways, but also it makes this thing like it's never going to come off. So I'm real, well, unless you want it to. So I'm pretty happy with that. It does alleviate some of his articulation, though. He has a diaphragm cut, so he can go side to side a little bit, but it's mostly just like a little bit of a shimmy point. Like, it's not the greatest range. It's kind of exactly what you would expect it to be for an Ultimates figure, honestly, because he has sort of an odd build to begin with, so he is really, really locked down here, but I do still like what they did here. Something about the security of that belt just works for me. Legs go out all the way, so you can do the splits if you need to. Kick forward is about that far. It's not 90, but it's pretty decent for him. Kick backwards slightly. You do have a thigh cut up there. You've got your single jointed swiveling knee. And then he has just the biggest, fattest ankles here, but really, really good range. Like, this rocker is as unencumbered as possible, and he still has really nice ankle hinge that's really ratcheted too. So it's definitely gonna, you know, lock him down and make sure he is secure. So he's a little bit different from some of the other figures, just because he's not a Silverhawk and he's not Monstar. He has his own configuration. They're all very different when it comes to this line. The big thing about him is his hair is going to get in the way, and he also doesn't have just a ton of range at that torso. I really like what they did with him visually and design-wise, though. There's a lot about this character that just works for me. It's really weird. He is like a space troll that is wearing, you know, like a potato sack. So he looks like this sort of like hobo kind of character, but he works for this insanely powerful crime boss. It doesn't work, right? But of course, it results in this goofy looking character, and I love this kind of stuff. I love this stuff, especially when it comes, you know, something from my childhood. There is some nostalgia here, and I think for the most part, they really nailed the visuals on this guy, even down to some of the things that look like they missed on details, but are absolutely screen accurate. Like the fact that he has no paint on his clawed nails, you know, his toenails and fingernails. He doesn't have that in the show either. So stuff like that. He doesn't have a lot of shading on his body either. He was very much a flat color in the show. He's very much in contrast to the Silverhawks, and of course Monstar. Monstar's always kind of like, you know, draped in shadow, pulsating with energy. The Silverhawks are always shining in some ways. He's very different. He's also got a very unique design and shape. He's he's just unique. That's very much a thing with this that we're going to see with this line, is that every figure is going to be different. Nothing is going to be similar across the board, and he has his own unique shape and size and proportions. He's really chunky. He's got these huge tree trunk legs. I really like this color. I think the color has been matched to the animation really, really well. And again, back to this soft goods setup. The soft goods are not wired. They wouldn't really need to be anyway, but they do fit on him so well. They are removable if you want. You take the belt off, and again, like I mentioned, the belt does peg in. So there's a peg on this part that pegs into this side that then pegs into the actual body itself with this really, really thick, robust peg. And all of that actually pegs through the soft goods. So it sort of tightens everything up a little bit. It locks it around his waist. And then there is a Velcro strap on the back that will pop the whole thing apart. If you wanted to try to have a naked Windhammer, you can definitely do that. But this looks really, really, really good. Of course, that setup does seem to get in the way of a full-on waist twist. Like, he probably could have had one, but there's a hole there now, so I don't guess it could have worked. So it's kind of a give and a take. But I do like the soft goods. They're different. They're unique. You know, he looks like a space hobo, but they fit him really, really nicely. I love the finish. I love the texture. And then you've got this head sculpt up here, which this is the more subdued of the two. The other one is definitely a more action, very much dynamic style face and hair. But the paint on here is really good. You've got those sort of sunken eyes. You've got the bags under the eyes. You've got his sort of big snarl going. He's got this big puffy set of lips, the teeth hanging out, yellow piercing eyes. And then you've got the hair, which, there's probably more detail in this hair sculpt than any other part of this figure. Not to mention, it's fully painted and tons of wash in there too. It does restrict his articulation. Like, there's no way around that. But I think it looks really good, and it's one of his signature characteristics outside of his outfit, his color. You've got this hair, because it's always billowing in the vacuum of space, which of course usually doesn't make sense either. But he's a goofy looking guy, and I think Super7 did a really solid job of translating this one from screen to figure. Now, as far as some size comparisons go, let's start with the other Hawks that I've already looked at so far. Well, Silverhawks characters anyway. So we got Monstar here on the left, Bluegrass here on the right. And like I mentioned, these figures across this entire line are all going to be very, very different. So Monstar is, of course, a little bit taller. Windhammer's kind of on the chunky side. And Bluegrass is, the more slender when it comes to the actual Silverhawks figures. Let's, of course, let's do some other lines as well. Let's take Bluegrass aside, and here's a NECA figure. Here's a turtle. There's the Archie Slash for a slightly shorter but, fatter kind of figure. And let's move Monstar aside, and here is a Marvel Legends. There's Morg, of course, from the HasLab Galactus. Let's take Slash aside. Let's do a Mythic Legions, but here's a 2.0 figure. So there's a 2.0 elf. And then let's do a smaller Hasbro figure, because Morg is obviously on the slightly larger side of things. So there's Cobra Commander, a classified figure. And then let's do one more. Let's do a Figuarts. Here is my always present Superhero Piccolo for a slightly taller Figuarts. So Windhammer is, he's very much going to be in line with your Ultimates figures. He's going to fit really well with Thundercats. He's going to fit really well with Turtles. And of course with other Silverhawks figures. He's slightly on the chunkier side, but when it comes to being in an Ultimates line, he's not as tall as the tallest figure, but he's definitely got a lot more bulk than your average Ultimates figure. Accessories is where things kind of go to another level for Windhammer, at least for me, because he is giving us pretty much everything we need for him, without getting into like super weird, esoteric, deep cut kind of things that appeared for half a second in an episode. We're getting stuff that works really well with this figure, and we get a lot of effect parts, which historically, we don't get a lot of. He comes with all the normal stuff, but then he gets some really cool effect parts also. So to start with, we do get an extra head, and I mentioned this, so he's got the windswept hair look, because whenever he's, doing what he does, his hair is usually billowing like this. So he's got a different expression. Mouth is open. You can see the inside of the mouth. You can see more teeth. You also do get a little bit more range. It's not a lot. He can actually sort of slightly look up, but it's a little bit more dynamic. If you've got him in a battle or anything like that, you probably want to use that head. And then we get 4 extra sets of hands. So he has these sort of, open palm, relaxed style hands on him in the box. We get a set, of course a set is 2, so you get 8 more hands. You get a set of fists. You get a set of gripping hands with lateral hinges. We, of course, get a set of gripping hands with vertical hinges, too. You got to have both. And then he also gets a set of pointing finger hands, and I want to see more of these. I love being able to put a pointing finger on a figure and just do something stupid with it. So he has access to that as well. Now, his signature weapon is the tuning fork, which, as dumb as it sounds, actually works really, really well as a toy. Because this is, I mean, it's just kind of a no-nonsense thing. It is what it is. It's a big tuning fork. It's bigger than the figure. Doesn't really need any crazy paint details. But it looks good, and he looks really cool holding this, especially because he has a bunch of effect parts. So to start with, we get this one, which is just sort of like a swooshing effect. So you've got this right here, just sort of yellow translucent plastic. It fits on the end of this really, really well. That was my main complaint when it came to Bluegrass, is I find it very difficult to use his effect parts. If you couple them with Windhammers, though, you can sort of have them locked in an effect part battle, and it kind of works really, really nicely. You can sort of interlock them, and it'll support Bluegrasses. So there's something to think about. You've got this one, which is like a big electricity blast. And of course, it fits on the same way. Like, it's really, really solid. And this is also a pretty rigid effect, rigid weapon as well. But then my favorite is like this big rock blast thing. So you can swap that out. This one is heavy. You're going to have some balancing acts to play with here. This is a much heavier effect. It's heavier than the weapon itself. But he is thankfully more robust of a figure with, more plastic. He's heavier. So he can sort of support these a little bit better. But I just really like getting this stuff. You can't use them all at the same time, but I like being able to have this when it comes to options, because I love effect parts, and I love the fact that I could take this and maybe use it with a different figure. So you've got really cool stuff. I'm really enjoying these. And as we see more and more effect parts in the Ultimates line, more of this, more of this. Very happy with those. They look great. And again, just the fact that they can be cinched onto that tuning fork so easily is just a nice quality of life thing. So he does come with a ton of really good stuff. He's got all the hands you really need. He's got a cool extra head sculpt. He's got a weird, goofy weapon, but he's got some awesome effect parts to accentuate it. So yeah, overall, Windhammer is really solid. He's definitely one of the best figures in this wave. It's kind of hard for me to decide which is my favorite yet, but he is certainly up there for a number of reasons. He is no doubt slightly less articulated than some of the others, just by virtue of that hair, and then he does have a little bit of a lockdown at that torso, but nothing too crazy compared to the rest. It's just locked down in a different way. But they nailed his look. Sizing is really good. Color is good. I really like the soft goods. I love the fact that everything just fits. I'm not worried about it, looking weird because it's draping off of him funny. And then he comes with a ton of really good accessories. I'm absolutely a fan of what they did with his accessories in terms of the tuning fork, the effect parts. It all just works really well to sell the idea of this guy. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Silverhawks Wave 2 Windhammer. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.